and many more. It's time to live your life. Get in touch today and secure your future with OVC Travel.
We're very excited today to have a special guest, Toriana Hazy, online with us to tell us a bit more about the cruise ship photography course. She is the cruise ship training manager that's going to be joining us today to chat to us a bit more about what you could expect on board as a cruise ship photographer.
Thanks, Selena. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. So I think to begin, we can sort of just jump into who is eligible for the program. So you need to be between the ages of 21 to 35. You would need to have some previous sales experience. Previous sales experience is required from retail, hospitality, or any sales or customer service environment that you were in. You would need to have a clear criminal record. You would be required to get a SAPS verification clearance in order to board onto the cruise ship. You must be able to pass a full medical. So you will have to go for what they call a seaman's medical before you get on board. Some tattoos are acceptable, especially the small ones that could be covered up whilst you are on duty, but it's always best for us to get clearance from the cruise ships before you do make your application. There's also a comprehensive 3-week training course that is done here in South Africa. Once you have successfully completed this training course, it enables you to start working on board as a photographer. Toriana, could you maybe tell us a bit more about what's covered whilst you're doing the course?
Oh wow, yeah. It's quite a thorough course. So if you have absolutely no photography experience, week 1 we will be teaching you the basics of photography. So from how to work in manual, just how the camera works, the functions, as well as lighting, exposure being the most important sort of thing, and a few other topics like night photography and travel photography. So we'll be doing some Photoshop training also on the first week. If you've already trained in photography and been working as a photographer, you skip the first week and you just do the 2-week course. And the 2-week course, we talk a lot about just life on board and what is expected of you as a cruise ship photographer. So we'll be covering things like setting up the studios and posing portraits, also using a light meter, metering flash, and also we will be shooting all of the different events that you'll be expected to do when on the cruise ship. So it's a very practical course. There's a lot of theory and it's very technical as well, but there's a lot of practical training involved as well.
Wow, that sounds like a very comprehensive course in 3 weeks, but at least it gets you going and gets you sorted to get on board in the shortest amount of time.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
And can you tell us a bit more about the training itself? Is it accredited in any way or anything like that?
Well, we are working with a few different cruise lines, but one in specific. So there's not a accreditation. However, we're working with a cruise line who interviews all of the candidates that we train. So we have a nice relationship going on with the cruise line. So everyone is guaranteed an interview that is accepted into the training. And that's why we do also, just to be accepted into the training, that's why we'll also interview you. So it's not guaranteed that you will get the job. However, it's a very high success rate because we do a screening beforehand, and just to make sure that you have the basic requirements that the cruise ship is looking for.
100%. Okay. So sort of touching on the qualities that you should have as a cruise ship photographer, you do need to be hardworking. Your hours on board can be long. They can be sometimes from 10 to 14 hours a day. So you are working on board, so you are awake when the guests are awake. So if there is an event that's happening or something special that's happening, you need to be there to be able to capture the photos and be able to capture the memories for the passengers on board. You do need to be a team player. So you will be working with people from different backgrounds, nationalities, and cultures. So it is best to be adaptable to be able to fit into working into life on board. It is important to note, as Coriana did touch on earlier, you don't have to have any previous photography training or experience, but having a keen eye for photography and having a passion for photography is a bonus to have. As Coriana did mention, if you have studied photography before or have any qualifications or anything like that, there is a different type of course that you can do. But if you haven't trained in photography, the comprehensive course does cover everything that does need to be covered. On board the cruise ship, everything is 5-star, from the food to the accommodation to everything is all 5-star. So it's important that you understand that this is a service industry. You have to be people passionate, which means that you should be able to give the 5-star service that passengers expect to receive whilst on board the cruise ships. It's also important to note that you're okay with not being at home for 6 to 8 months, since that's generally the length of your contract. So you will actually be living on board at sea for 6 to 8 months during your contract. You do have some time to be able to get off and disembark at ports to be able to go do sightseeing and that type of stuff. So pretty much be able to travel and tick all those things off your bucket list. But your duration of your contract will of course vary depending on which cruise ship you're on, but you could expect your contract to be anything from 6 to 8 months. It is important to note that English does not have to be your first language, but you do need to have a strong command of the English language and be able to communicate efficiently and fluently in the language. Coriana, are there any other languages that might be good or a bonus to have?
Other European languages such as Spanish, French, German could be beneficial. Look, it's probably about 80% American passengers that cruise with a lot of these cruise lines. So English will be the main language that you need to have excellent English skills. Also, there are some ships that are cruising around Japan and China. So if you speak Mandarin, that's an extra bonus, or Japanese. So any kind of more common languages, especially European languages, are definitely beneficial to have, even if it's basic, just so you can connect and build rapport with the passengers.
Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, so sort of getting on to what you could expect as a typical day on board, it's really hard to tell you what your schedule would be like on board since it does change every day. However, Coriana, can you maybe tell us what a typical day on board would look like as a cruise ship photographer?
Sure thing. Yeah, like you say, there's not really a typical day because every day is different. So you might have I'll take you through one of your sort of busier days.
Okay.
So where the main sort of parties are happening and lots of events are happening amongst the cruise ship. So often it is an early rise. When we're at port, you will be sometimes scheduled to take pictures on the gangway, meaning when people are coming off the ship at the different ports, you might be working for about 4 hours taking pictures of people as they're disembarking the ship to go off on tour. And then from usually after that, you'll have the day where you can jump in a taxi or rent a car or go on a tour. So then you'll have a bit of time for yourself to go exploring. Sometimes you won't be on gangway and you'll have, you know, up until 5 o'clock in the evening to go exploring at the different ports. So it just depends on the day. Then we usually need to be back on board by 5 o'clock. It depends on what the itinerary is, but that's sort of your typical cruising. Back on board at 5 o'clock, you might have a gallery shift that night, or you might be shooting portraits all night. So it sort of depends on what's happening on that specific evening. On the busier party nights, they'll have lots of different events that are going on, and we'll have many different backdrops set up all over the ship. So we'll be working a good 5-6 hours straight shooting portraits, or going into the dining rooms and taking pictures of the people in the dining rooms. So we're very busy with taking the pictures, but we're also busy with selling the pictures. And that's why having some sales experience is so important, sales or customer service experience, because we're not just photographers. Sales is a really important aspect of our job. We need to be able to interact and connect with people and build rapport with the passengers as well. So a good deal of time will also be spent in the gallery. So if you're not shooting portraits, you might be working in the gallery that evening. So often it is shift work. So you won't be working an 8-hour shift in the gallery. You'll be working 3 hours in the gallery, and then you'll have a 3-hour break. And then you'll go back and work another 3 hours in the gallery a bit later, maybe if you're not shooting portraits. So as you can see, it's kind of all over the place. One day you'll be working gallery shifts. Another day you're going to be shooting portraits. Another day you're going to be going into the dining room and taking pictures. So it's really nice actually, because it's not too repetitive. It keeps it interesting, that every day is a little bit different as well. Some days you'll have a decent amount of time off to go and explore at the different ports. Other days you're working a little harder and you might be stuck on board sometimes too. So yeah, just depending on if it's your turn or not. So they try to keep it even with the amount of hours that all of the different photographers are working as well. So they try to keep it fair for everyone, that, you know, there's always needs to be 1 or 2 photographers on board in case there is any kind of emergency within the photo department. Let's see if I missed anything here. And then we don't really do a lot with the printing of the photos, but there'll be designated people to do the printing. But that's something that, you know, that's one way to one area you can move into if you want to work in the lab. So then there's lots of room to grow within the photography department, for instance, whether you want to work in the lab or whether you want to go into management, or whether you want to be one of the designated portrait photographers. So there's lots of room to grow, which is great as well. So the pictures are printed on board. We have a full-on lab on board right after the pictures are taken, so that it's ready to go up either that evening or the next morning for the passengers to purchase. So it's definitely a good balance of work and fun. We work hard and play hard. That's kind of the philosophy on a cruise ship. We are, you know, traveling to different exotic places every day, exploring different countries every day, which is, you know, why most people do it, for that travel experience. Make some decent money too, that doesn't hurt, but we also work hard. So you will have those days where you're going to be maybe working 10 hours that day or 12 hours that day. It's not going to be every day, but you're definitely going to have those days where you're on your feet. Your feet are going to hurt. Get yourself some good shoes. And it's one of those things where service is so important. So we always also need to keep a smile on our face, even if our feet are killing us.
There is a separate area for crew members to unwind and mingle, and it's called the back deck. So you will, of course, have some time off in port, which is an ideal way to travel the world and get paid for it. So what can you expect for your inclusions whilst you are on board? Well, you get free accommodation because you're going to be living on board for the 6 to 8 months duration of your contract. You will get free return flights. So basically, your ship will fly you from your nearest airport and fly you through to the nearest harbor to where your ship is docked. And at the end of your contract, they'll be able to fly you back home to South Africa again. Whilst on board, you are earning tax-free dollars. So your starting salary would be $1,130, which would be including tips, excluding tips as well. So of course, your tips does depend on how good of a salesperson you are, how many pitches you sell. So that's why it's important that you do have a strong sales background or customer service background. You do get free medical whilst you are on board, since you are going to be out at sea. Of course, if you do need to be seen by a doctor or anything, there are the doctors on board to be able to see you. You also do get free meals whilst on board. So your meals are prepared by professional chefs. So you will, of course, get your 3 meals and your snacks a day. So, of course, all that is covered. So this really is a unique way to travel the world, see all those lovely places that you'd like to tick off on your bucket list, whilst being able to save some money. So what are some of the benefits of doing the photography course? Well, you get to learn a lifelong skill. So you could go on 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 different contracts if you wanted to whilst you are at sea, and then you'd be able to return back home to South Africa. And if you wanted to, you could actually start your own photography business. Whilst you are going through the process, we do set up your interviews for you, and we do give you guidance and tips on how to be a strong candidate during the interviews, what we know that the cruise ships look for, and we advise you from there. Of course, it goes without saying and is expected, you get to travel the world. Whilst you are working on board, you are able to do different cruises, so obviously that goes to different places. So it is a really nice and unique way of being able to cruise and get that experience of being able to travel abroad. And of course, you make lifelong friends. You're going to be living and working with your crew members whilst on board for the duration of your contract. So there's no doubt at all that you'd be able to make lifelong friendships. So even after you've gotten off the cruise ships, you'd always have a place to be able to stay in a different country if you've made a friend with a different nationality to yours. Coriana, are there any other benefits that I may have left out that you think might be important to mention?
I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, travel the world, make money, and meet amazing people. That's the biggest bonuses, and gain new skills is another big one too. I mean, most people originally are doing it to travel and maybe to make some money, but probably the most beneficial thing you're going to get out of this experience is the people that you're going to meet along the way. So that's definitely one of the greatest bonuses. Yeah, you'll always have a couch to crash on in different countries that you travel in the world. So a great opportunity all around for sure.
100%, yeah. Okay, so just to basically chat about what are the last training dates for 2021. So we have our upcoming course that's going to be on the 26th of July. We then have one in August, which will begin on the 30th of August. We have another one on the 4th of October, and our last date for 2021 for the cruise ship photography training will be on the 8th of November. When you do make your application, you'll be able to indicate what course dates that you would like to, of course, join on. And when you do have your interview with Coriana, depending on if what sort of dates or what courses are available, you will be able to go for the next available course to see what would suit you best. So chatting about your application, the application process is very easy. You would complete your application documents, which I'll be showing to you shortly. To be able to complete everything, there's a little bit of a medical, there's application documents. You'd be able to complete all of that and send that through to OVC. We will then send that on to Coriana, who will be able to screen your application and then be able to set up an interview with you to sort of go through your sales experience and just to be able to check your qualifications if you have any. And usually these interviews are done on Skype. You then would have your course date that you would have chosen, and if you do pass your interview, you'll then be able to, of course, start your course dates on that given time. Coriana, can we maybe chat a bit more about placements? We know now with COVID and that type of stuff, it's a bit unsure about when cruise dates will start. Could you maybe give us any indication of what you believe could be the next start date or what we can expect?
Yeah, well, it looks like the cruise ships are going back in with full force, which is excellent news after over a year break in the cruise industry. So the cruise ships are starting beginning of July with lots of new exciting itineraries. So they'll start with about 4 ships to begin with, and then by the end of the year, they hope to have their whole fleet in action again. So, which is really great news. So we definitely anticipate a lot of need for recruitment with having to fill all of these ships. Obviously, there's lots of past employees that will be going back, but they're definitely going to be needing some new people as well. As far as how long it's going to take, that's very hard to say. I mean, the process always does take a little bit of time after completion of the course, because you still need to go and get your visas and find placement on a ship and get your police clearance and so on and so on. So there's the medical as well that can sometimes be time consuming. So normally it is around 4 months. We're probably, I would guesstimate like 6 months, so late in the year to maybe even early next year before placement actually happens. So, but the sooner you do the course, the sooner your placement will happen. You'll go on a waiting list, and people will be placed according to when they do the course as well.
100%. So it's best to get your application in and get your training done as soon as possible, so that you're not too far down on the waiting list, of course.
Definitely, yes.
All right, so just following on from what Kariana said, obviously then we would work on your placement. You would get assistance with completing your visa for your visa application as well. And then once all that's done and dusted, your flights are booked, and then you would be able to depart. So moving on to your experience, throughout this entire process, you will have OVC support. We're here to be able to assist you with your application documents, and of course being able to set up your interview. Between Kariana and OVC, we will be able to give you some guidance, just to give you the best tips and prepare you and give you all the tools that you need to be able to ace your interview. And of course, it goes without saying that being able to complete this comprehensive 3-week course here in South Africa is the best way to fast track your career at sea.
Yep.
Moving on to the cost of the program, so we're estimating anything between about 25 to 30,000 rand, what you could look at for your application. So just to sort of break down this cost, so you know how it's all tallied, your 3-week course that's done here in South Africa is 19,000 rand. That obviously does need to be paid in full before you do begin your course. Your medical you're looking at is roughly about 4,500 rand, just give or take. Remember, it's not a normal medical, it's a Siemens medical, so it is a little bit more different than going to your GP. Your visa is $160 that's payable to the American Embassy, which is roughly about 2,400 rand. It does, of course, fluctuate with the exchange rates, and you would need to get your SAPS police clearance. And then if you have never worked out at sea before, you will have to get something called a Seaman's book, which is part of you being able to work on the vessels, and that's plus minus about 700 rand that you would need to be able to get. Kariana, is there anything else that you think that would be important for our guys that are considering the cruise ship program to know about?
I think we've covered. I think we've covered most of the stuff. Just trying to think if there's anything that we missed. Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Just maybe one little thing to add on is just, so we talked a little bit about what's involved in the course, but just maybe another point is we also assist you with getting your CV or resume looking fabulous during the course, and assist you in applying to the cruise line. So this is all going to happen like on week 2 of the course. We'll put through all the applications, and then at that stage you will get information where you can do your video interview. So then you do a bit of a video interview for the cruise line. So we'll assist you with this whole process. I'm just getting ready for the interviews, as well as updating or starting a portfolio if you've never had a portfolio before, and just giving you feedback on what pictures are going to work.
Thank you, Kariana, for your time today. Those that have tuned in, we do hope to get your application soon. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to contact your nearest OVC office. And we look forward to assisting you, helping you fast track your career at sea. Thank you.
Sorry, everybody, I seem to be having some internet issues. So I've just turned my camera off so it's a little bit easier. I just want to hop on some of the questions just to finish off with. Kelly asked, when does the medical happen? Kelly, excellent question. The medical will take place after placement at a designated doctor. It's not a normal medical that you do. It is a Siemens medical, so it's very specific, and specific doctors, of course, do that. So that will take place once you've been placed, before you board onto the ship, and we will, of course, assist you during that process as well. Another question was for loans for the program. Unfortunately, there aren't any payment plans or anything like that. We don't offer any student loans or something like that. You would need to be able to pay for the course fees and the other associated fees upfront before you're able to, of course, do the program. Another good question that was asked is a visa. You'd probably get a C1 visa. That is basically for people that work on board the cruise ships as crew members, and we would be giving you assistance with applying for that visa as well. Another question about ages and when you can sort of board and do the course. Basically, the course can be done if you are 20, turning 21 soon. You just won't be able to be placed on board the cruise ships until you turn 21. So right now is a really good time, as we've just discussed. We obviously do have placements that are starting to pick up. So we're hoping that by the end of this year, beginning of early next year, we will, of course, have some placement that would need to be done. The course is actually done here in South Africa. It is a practical course as well as a theoretical course. So you would need to be present for the course. It's not online, unfortunately, or done remotely. You would have to go every day to class for those 3 weeks to be able to do the course. The course is not extendable, unfortunately. It's a 3-week course, and you have to complete the course during that time period. And then once it's completed, it's done, and you are able to work on board a cruise ship as a photographer. The medicals will be done at a designated doctor. You wouldn't need to necessarily fly down to Cape Town or anything like that. There are various doctors that do the Siemens medical situated throughout the different provinces. So you will be able to do the medical closest to you. Unfortunately, we are not able to guarantee placement. So basically, we will assist you in terms of getting you all the tools that you need to be able to get you prepared, to be able to have all the correct tools. We, as Coriana just mentioned, we'll be able to assist you with your CV, getting everything done and dusted. We will, of course, prepare you for your interview, tell you what to do. You'd have to do a video interview beforehand, depending on where your ship is. So we are going to prepare you as much as possible from there. Once you have done this course, it does elevate your chances. So it does make placements a lot more easier for you, as opposed to someone that might not have done the course previously. Unfortunately, we're not able to guarantee that we can place you with a partner in the ship or anything like that. You can, of course, let us know, and we will do our best to be able to see if you are able to be placed on the same ship. But basically, it means that there's one cruise ship that is looking for a male and a female photographer, for example, and they like the both of you and hire the both of you. So that's the possibility that we need to go through. So we do the screening with the course, basically. So whilst you are obviously doing the preparations, if you're not able to pass the screening, that means you're not accepted onto the course. So then everything stops there. You're not paying any monies, you're not doing anything further, because you're basically not able to work on board the cruise ship. So that's why we make sure to do thorough screening beforehand. Accommodation is not included in the course, unless you possibly have family or someone around that you would be able to stay with. However, accommodation can be provided. There is accommodation that's not too far. It's like a little B&B, and you will be able to stay there as well. We can give you some more information during the course once you have been placed. So there's quite a few cruise lines that we obviously do work with. We do work with all the major brands, basically. For example, NCL being one of them. So we do work with quite a few. We unfortunately can't take requests on which cruise ship you obviously would be able to be placed on. Basically, your resume and your CV is being put out to all the cruise ships that are looking for photographers, and then we sort of just get the interviews as they come in. If you don't pass the screening, yes, you can reapply again. You would, of course, need to work on certain aspects. So, for example, it could be experience, it could be the way you interview. Those are very important things that you would probably need to work on. The interviews are quite thorough when you do them with Coriana, and it's obviously just based on personality and experience in general. Another good question over here is, if you pay the money, what is the highest amount? We don't guarantee. So basically, we are not able to guarantee that you get the job because we're not the cruise ships that are hiring you, if that makes any sense. What I will do is basically be able to allow people to put their marks on. If we can just go one by one, so it's not too much interference with everything. But we are not physically placing you like on the cruise ships. You're not phoning us and we're saying, cool, we'll hire you on the cruise ships, which is why we make sure to prepare you in the best way that we can by helping with your CV and giving you interview tips. So if you're not placed on one cruise ship, that doesn't mean now that you're not being able to be placed at all. You'll simply just apply for a different cruise ship, if that makes any sense. I think I've gotten all the text messages that have been sent. Does anyone want to come on? Is there any other further questions that anyone might have? Yes, we do have offices. Sorry, I realized that I didn't put my microphone on beforehand. We have 18 offices nationwide, and we have one office in Namibia. So I'm pretty sure that there would be an office that's nearest to you for you to be able to contact them. It's best that you contact the consultant that you got the link from, and you'll be able to get all the details and be able to have a meeting with them. Another excellent question. The contracts are renewable after 6 to 8 months, so you can do as many contracts as you want to do. So if you want to do 4 seasons, 5 seasons, 6 seasons, you definitely are able to. Of course, it's based on your performance with the cruise lines as well. Or if you wanted to change to a different cruise line, or perhaps move into a different level on the cruise ships. Let me just get you to some of the other messages. So just to sort of clarify, unless you pass the screening, basically that's the only time that you need to pay the fees and that type of stuff. If you don't pass the screening, you will not have to pay any of the fees or anything like that. As a general rule of thumb, if you're passing the screening, that means that Cariana, who obviously assists with the placements and does the placements, has deemed your personality, your experience suitable to be able to place on board the cruise ships. So it's fair to say that there is a really good possibility that you will be placed on board a cruise ship once you have completed your course. Okay, no problem. Please do. You're welcome to just check on our website. We actually have a little WhatsApp logo, a little floating WhatsApp logo that you can click on and actually see all the offices and proper message from there if you want to. Jan, you've asked a really good question, but it's impossible to answer that question because each cruise ships are ranging in size. There could be a cruise ship, for example, that may have 1,500 passengers, where they might need a big team of photographers, or there might be an even bigger cruise ship. So we can't tell you exactly how many photographers would be on a cruise ship and how many would, hire and that type of stuff. It's basically just important to note that we are going to have an upswing when the cruise ships do officially start sailing, since many of the onboard staff have possibly found other jobs or something due to COVID. So they will definitely be looking for other photographers as well. Salaries on the ships, I did mention, sorry, as I said, I was having a bit of internet issues. You're looking at around roughly $1,130. That's excluding tips. So tips can be on how many pictures you sell. It could be the upsells that you've got for them. So you could be earning, I'd say, roughly about $1,200, just as sort of a ballpark figure. And of course, that would be tax-free. Since you're living on board the cruise ship, your meals are accommodated, your accommodation's accommodated. So it's pretty much savings if you're thinking about it. And as I mentioned, your salary is tax-free. If you did decide that you wanted to come back after a month or two, is it possible? I'll be very honest with you. I've yet to experience that or have someone that's happened to. It's not, of course, suggested or advised that if you're not sure about doing the course or not sure about wanting to stay for full duration, that you actually do the program. Yes, the cruise ship life is not for everyone. It can be quite difficult at times. That's why you do need to be, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, you do need to be someone that is quite hardworking and people person. That's why we tell you you may have long hours on some of the nights and that type of stuff, so you are prepared. It's not every day though that you are going to have 10-hour shifts. You know, you're not going to be on your feet for 10 hours. Your shifts would normally rotate, say 3 hours on, and it could be 3 hours off. Unfortunately, there's no other place to do the course. This is the only course that is recognized by the cruise ships that you can do. So this is the course that you would need to do. If you do the course in July, it doesn't expire at all. Once you are qualified, you're always qualified. Think about when you get your degree from, UKZN or UNISA or something like that. You've always got that degree. You've always got that qualification, so it won't expire at all. Your accommodation can be shared, yes, or you can opt to have your own room, but you, of course, would be paying a little bit more for that. So usually if you're going with a friend or something, you would be able to have a room that you would share with your friend. Just like when you're on board the cruise ships. Normally it's 2 to 3 berth cabins, just depending, and usually you would be sharing with same sex. You wouldn't normally be sharing with different sexes, genders in the cabins, and that sort of is decided on whatever cruise ship you're on. I am just going through to Facebook just to be able to see if there's any other questions over there, since we don't have any other questions right now on the chat. Cool. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me this evening. If you do have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with your local OVC. In case you didn't catch it earlier, our website is www.ovc.co.za, and you'll be able to get in touch with our offices from there. Last question. Yes, if you have a photography certificate, you would be able to have it assessed by a Coriana. If you do have experience in photography, and depending on what type of photography experience you do have, you might be able to go for the 2-week course. But of course, Coriana will be doing that assessment to see if you would qualify for that. Last question from Jan. How would you put our minds at ease for applying for the cruise ships? Because South Africans are not the only people applying. There are Americans in other countries as well. Excellent question, although I do find it a bit difficult to answer, since you are aware that you are going to be dealing with other nationalities and being on board with other people. They love South Africans. I suppose any country, I should say, just to be very general, do love South Africans, bearing in mind that we're very hardworking. We're not afraid to put in a bit of the extra efforts. So that is why having this course is not just this is how you learn to use a camera and manual. This is how you need to have your lighting. This is how you set up a stand. It's a lot more than that. The course is very comprehensive, as I mentioned. So you're learning a lot more than just having your photography experience and that type of stuff. That's why sales experience, whether it be customer service or hospitality, it's important to have that, because that is how you ultimately sell yourself, not only for your employers, for when you're getting a job, but also be able to use your services later. The 2-week course is not the same price as the 3-week course. Unfortunately, it looks like we've lost Coriana. So I don't know the price off by heart, but Coriana will be able to advise you that. So what you can do is submit your application. You can get the application forms. I went through them earlier from your OVC consultant. We'll be able to get that information for you. Job availability. Jan, there is definitely going to be an upswing because the cruise ships haven't sailed for about 1.5 years due to COVID. So some people would have left because you're not able to sustain yourself not having a job, of course. So many of the onboard staff would have gone to find other jobs. So many of the staff would probably be re-employed, but there still would be a large gap in the photography sector, which is why we're telling everyone to make sure that you get going, get your course, and you will be placed according to the waiting list, because there is quite a waiting list. And that's all the questions. Thank you so much. I do appreciate all the feedback for a great meeting. I do hope everyone has a great evening, and we look forward to chatting to you a bit more tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.